Hi, my name is Francois and I am a super teacher. It's November and that means exams are here. For some of us it's still coming, but it's right around the corner. And I thought maybe this week we can discuss the practice of coaching for the exam. Many teachers are forced to teach content in such a way that the learners will be able to pass the exam. In this episode, we discuss the difference between coaching for the exam and three-dimensional learning. Let's educate. Coaching for the exam is extremely prevalent in grades 10, 11 and 12, but with the annual national assessments, we find this practice in the lower grades as well. In the senior phase, intermediate phase, and even in the foundation phase, teachers are just teaching content to ensure that learners can pass the exam. When we teach for the exam or coach for the exam, we require learners to memorize facts, and then during the test or the exam, we want them to just regurgitate these facts. Or if we teach them processes, they basically just have to substitute some of the numbers or some of the words or some of the formula and get to an answer. But the procedures and the processes, they still have to memorize. Exams and tests seldomly require learners to reason critically or to evaluate or synthesize their answers. It is mostly regurgitation. When we teach, we often want to keep everything in silos. In other words, now I'm teaching mathematics, now I'm teaching language, and now I'm teaching art. In this way, we teach one-dimensionally. The learners would know, now I'm doing mathematics or now I'm doing language. But they fail to see how connected everything is. We are so focused on getting children into university that we neglect to teach them the skills that's going to keep them in university. Whilst in school, we expect of the learners to memorize facts. We would give them a lot of facts in the content. But at university, it is expected that students would be able to reason about something and come up with their own solutions and not just regurgitate facts. Furthermore, the majority of learners won't even reach university. And we see that many employers complain about the basic skills of reasoning that people don't have in the workplace. And that is basically our job as teachers, to teach children how to reason critically, how to create their own understanding. But the educational system has forced us into this habit of just teaching content, almost preaching. Well, we need more super teachers. We don't need super preachers. So how are we going to change this? The role of the teacher is changing. We are no longer just the vessel of facts and sharing that, transmitting things like radio stations do. But what our role has become is one of assisting learners in making connections. When they understand the relevance of the different content areas and they can themselves connect the dots, they create their own understanding. Furthermore, it's our job to look at their understanding, to shape it towards the general accepted explanation for a phenomenon or a concept. So what I'm arguing for is a shift, a movement away from the one-dimensional teaching of coaching for the exam towards a focus on three-dimensional learning. So what is three-dimensional learning? When you create a lesson, you want to focus on three things. First of all, a core concept, or what we call a big idea. All of the subject disciplines have got these big overarching concepts that almost drive the rest of the discipline. If I can use an example from biology, because that's my major, you can look at teaching evolution, or you could look at global warming. In order to understand a grand concept or a big idea like global warming, you have to understand the facts, but more importantly, the connections between the different facts that'll give you a greater understanding. So first of all, the big idea. The second thing you need for three-dimensional learning is what we call a cross-cutting concept. It is a concept that is universal for the content that you are teaching. So if we use global warming as an example, as the big idea, the cross-cutting concept would be the carbon cycle. We need to understand where carbon goes. If you understand the carbon cycle, you know, where carbon dioxide is absorbed by plants and oxygen is released, and then we would inhale the oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. That is the carbon cycle, or at least one part of the carbon cycle. If you understand this concept of how carbon dioxide is recycled and reused, you can understand one aspect of global warming. When you understand the carbon cycle, you can also understand more complex concepts or interactions like the greenhouse effect. And all of these different connected concepts will give you a greater understanding of global warming. And then the third aspect of three-dimensional learning is the practices involved with the big idea. In this case, measuring carbon dioxide levels will give learners a greater concept of how much carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere. You are integrating the big idea with a cross-cutting concept and developing a skill through practice. In this way, you are asking learners to build or create their own understanding. When you use three-dimensional learning or teaching in your classroom, you allow learners to build or create their own understanding. I believe the reason why so few teachers really invest in doing three-dimensional learning in their classroom is because it's difficult. It requires you to design a lesson and really think about what it is you want to do. So many of us just go the easy route because we have the curriculum, we have the textbook. So it's easy to stand in front of the class and just lecture, when what is really needed is to develop these critical reasoning skills. A fourth aspect that we need to incorporate into our teaching is contextualization. Unfortunately, because we use the textbook or the curriculum, we use examples that are far removed from what children can understand. An example from biology is the life cycle of the insect. So many textbooks expect you to teach the life cycle of the silkworm. And unfortunately, in our country, so few people know what a silkworm is. But if you ask them, what is a mupani worm? That's much more contextualized in South Africa. If you're a teacher in Limpopo, you should definitely show children how to farm with mupani worms, because they get to understand the life cycle. And that leads me to the question of this week. How do you contextualize your teaching for your specific classroom? It would be great to know what other teachers do out there, so put your examples in the comment section down below and we can have a good discussion. If you enjoyed what we do here, give this episode a like, subscribe to this channel if you would like to see all super teachers unite under one banner so we can make a positive difference in the classroom. Until next time, I'm Francois and I am a super teacher.